Alright, y'all. Well, boy, do we got a different one for you tonight. So, what we're doing by popular demand, what ant is real and what is not. So, let's get right into it. Alright, guys, so like I said in the little intro, today we're going to be going into what ant is real and what is not. And there's quite a bit of little surprises and mysteries along the way as far as what they have in the game itself. But before we get into that, I have to get into the usual shenanigans. This video is sponsored by UPTO. If we're using my code EGNI3, you can get anywhere from 5 to 65% off. It's a great way to be able to save money when you are spending on this game anyway. And it's free money back to you. It's nothing to lose. I mean, it's nothing but good for you. And on top of that, it helps me out quite a bit. And so forth. So again, that is EGNI3 via UPTO. There'll be a full description of how to do so down in the description down below, as well as a video as to how to apply this code. On top of helping, there's also going to be a Discord link down below to where we have a great community of people that'll help you with any question you have game related. Totally free. You don't have to feel like you're ever going to be judged or anything for your kind of questions that you want to ask. So feel free to join it. On top of helping out, it would really help me out if you guys like, subscribe, and comment on this video. It doesn't cost you anything, but for content creators like me, it really helps out. Alright, so we're going to get into it because this one's going to be an interesting one. So let me go ahead and check my battle report here because somebody just hit. Apparently didn't hit one that I needed. Okay, so we're going to get into it. So the very first one is going to be the new Emerald Jewel ant. They claim it's an ant. It is actually not. They give you a little bit of description and such. It is not an ant. So we're going to switch over to my gallery here where I have gone through and done the research to find out exactly what these are. So what this is actually called an emerald cockroach wasp or a jeweled wasp. It's a wasp. It is known for its unusual reproductive behavior, which involves it stinging a cockroach and using it as a host for its larvae. So what it does essentially is that the female will go and first sting it to be able to paralyze it, and then it purposely stings in its head to be able to hit what is basically the fight or flight feature that is in the cockroach. At that point, because of the toxins, it then can be basically led around as a zombified state back to its actual home. So what it does is it essentially paralyzes the cockroach, lays its larvae, and then it'll purposely bite off one of its antennas to be able to then, because the emerald wasp is way smaller than the typical cockroach, it will then use its other antenna as a leash to be able to drag it back to its home, to where it essentially will die and hatch the larvae for the babies to eat 3 days after. I don't know about y'all, but kind of brutal in a sense. But yeah, so it essentially zombifies the cockroach to be able to bring it back to its hive. All right, and we will get into the next one. So the next one is going to be the Reapmaster, if I can find it. So this is what it depicts in the game as far as the Reapmaster. I was actually very skeptical about this ant as to whether it was truly a real ant or not. Turns out it actually is. So there is no street name. So the actual name street, their actual name of Reapmaster in the game has no affiliation with this actual ant. Instead, there's a scientific name which, good lord, I'm gonna try, but I'm gonna absolutely butcher it. They're known as the Eommarx ants. It is an ant, is found in Mexico and Brazil. They are noted for their pitchfork-shaped mandibles, in which they are used to capture millipedes. It's one of the only ants that acts as a straight predator, in which they prey specifically on millipedes. Now that's really rare because usually ants, unless in defense of their hive, typically are more of like gatherers or finding dead insects already. It's very rare that you'll find ants that actually hunt. And as it says on here, there's only 2 that are known to be able to hunt millipedes. These ants are extremely rare and only known to be found in Mexico and Brazil. There's also including Cuba and the Caribbean islands. It's actually a pretty small ant, from 3.3 to 5 millimeters. And of course it has the pitchfork-shaped mandibles with 3 long teeth. Like I said, they usually only hunt millipedes. So even though they have not been able to really find what the queen looks like, their hives are very hard to find. They're actually a very rare form of an ant. All right, so now we get into the next one, which in the game they have named as, if I could find it, the acid ant. Now, this one I actually thought was going to be an ant, based off of what they have with their description and stuff, but it most certainly is not. So this is actually known as the blue ant, or Dinoca bicola, which is known as the blue ant, but it's actually a species of flower wasp. It has a couple different variations and subfamilies, but it is known as being one of the only wasps that is completely wingless. But what's even weirder is that for most wasps, they have like a hive. This is actually known as a solo wasp and a parasitic wasp. They don't go back to a hive. Instead, they control their own dynamics and food chain. They don't report to a queen, essentially. So this ant is, in the most part, known to be in South and Southeast Australia, including the states of Tasmania, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. So they are generally ground nesting. They are really kind of an unusual type of wasp within the wasp community, because they usually exclusively hunt mole crickets as a way of reproduction. They basically sting a mole cricket or a beetle or a beetle larvae to be able to inject their own larvae, which is why they're parasitic, to where the baby essentially has a food supply the second it hatches. As they're adults and as they slow down, they tend to usually feed more on nectar and pollinate various native flowers. They're not dangerous to humans in any way, shape, or form, but they are very fast moving and usually try not to show aggression unless provoked. So now we'll get into the next one. Oh, and disconnected. Let me go ahead and reconnect. So the next one is going to be the good old Formica clara, which, as you can say from what they say, is China, Russia, etc., bright, clear body. But that's actually not entirely true, and we'll show you why. So this species is actually mostly from Europe and the Near East and Anatolia. It's essentially, it's known to not be rather populous, meaning a lot of ants in them. There's usually monogamous or weakly polygamous, with aggressive workers, which are, at least in the northern range, notably larger than their other types of species in the subject. There are versions of it that are in China, but they're not nearly as colorful, and they're a lot more bountiful than they are in most of Europe. So the closest version, which is kind of the shiny reddish version that you see in the game, the closest version of that is actually in Europe, and they're kind of a subspecies and kind of rare. But like I said, there are some that are from like Syria and other differences that are part of the same family, but they're not of the same genre. But it's notable to know that there's really only two pigmentation characteristics, which is one that we see like in the game with the more reddish skin, and then there's a very bland yet more common, which is like a more of a brownish type skin. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of information available about like how or what these species hunt, other than they're kind of a more common type beast ant, so usually typically scavengers or of that sort. They are not really seen as hunters, but more as like scavengers. All right, and now we get into the next one, and this is an interesting one, the black cancer. So the black cancer is not an ant whatsoever, and let me show you why. So the black cancer is actually an ant mimicking crab spider that was first discovered in 1871. As of now, there's only 3 confirmed species that we know of, and they're found in Paraguay, Brazil, Argentina, and Panama. It is most largely known and referred to as the turtle ant mimicking crab spider. Not really sure why they have that name per se, but perhaps when you see the pictures that we will display, y'all can tell me why you might possibly think that they would come up with that name. As far as like the differences in this particular ant mimicking crab spider, the one things that we do know is that they mimic ants and look like ants as best as they can to feed upon ants, to be able to infiltrate and to be able to capture their prey. Other than that, there is not much that is actually known about these particular types of spiders, other than their very bizarre look and the fact that they go and capture ants to eat rather than by mimicking them, rather than feeding on most anything else. There's only a few species of spiders that do mimic ants, and we'll be getting into more of those if people like this series. Alright, so now we get into the next one, which is honestly the ant that took me the most time and the most research to be able to even find one that could possibly be what this ant is. And if you guys happen to know, actually it's not even an ant, but if you guys happen to know what this critter is, comment down below, come to the Discord, and let's discuss it. But that's being the golden venom. Now, obviously I have the 2nd generation look on the golden venom, to where it has the spike, oh, Ari's gonna kill me later, polypodus or whatever the fuck they are, their teeth. Whereas when we were doing our research with the base version, it doesn't have that. So, and with this description being so very not really telling us anything, it took us a lot of research to be able to find something that it could possibly be. So what is it? Well, this is what I think it is. Let's get into it. So the closest thing that we were able to find was it being a striped lynx spider. And the reason being is that they're one of the only ants that have the spiky polypus, whatever the heck, their fangs. And they're one of the only ones that are orange with having that aspect. So even though it's a second gen ant, or I'm sorry, second gen spider in this case, this is the closest thing that we could find. So usually they have like the little spiky legs, they have the spiky front fangs, they usually have a diamond cardiac mark and fur that basically covers the legs. But it is definitely a spider. Adult females range from 5 to 6 millimeters, and adult males range from 4 to 5 millimeters. So these are actually one of the few ants that are in the game, even though it's not really an ant, that is actually home to the United States, being from Massachusetts and Iowa, south to Florida and Texas, and along the Mexican border, north along the Pacific coast to Oregon. So much of South and Central America. It's also to be found in Hawaii, as well as some of the islands as well as the island of Maui. But this is honestly one of those that we could not find much information on. There's not much information given in the game, and we don't know if they just took the likeness of it when researching this and trying to work with others. Some thought it could be a jumping spider. Others thought that we were right, and it's a striped lynx spider. It's hard to tell. Tell us what you guys think down below. If you've seen a spider ever like this, we would love to discuss it. But alright guys, if you guys like this series, I will continue with other ants that they have in the game. Try to give a little more information on them and just generally discuss what is real and what is not within the Ants World game. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Honestly, I don't have much other content I can cover right now, so if you have any ideas or things that you want me to cover, please say down in the comments down below or in the Discord. Quite frankly, the Discord's a lot easier for me to be able to look over and be able to assist people and give out good content. But if you like this, please, please, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, like it, comment. That all helps me out, and that lets me know that you guys want me to continue to make this kind of content. Until the next one, Egg News out.